Before trying to understand whether the dollar is valued or devalued against other currencies, we should understand how this whole process behind the currency creation works. I will try to explain in the simple and the summarized way. Well, nothing better the starting and the beginning. Um, it is a central banks which are independent entities and are responsible for issuing currency. Which country, as with its only central bank, sometimes there are countries that group together and have common central bank and common currency. For example, in the countries of the Eurozone, it is a European Central Bank that will issue the euro. In the US, it is a US Federal Reserve that issues the dollar. Uh, but after a while, what is the currency for? I have highlight three purposes that we can give to the currency, and there is an obvious purpose that is a purchase of goods and a service, and two other complementary ones which we will see later. It is the value of each good or service which will determine the value of currency. And we must keep in mind an important concept, which is inflation. And now I'm going to stop where to explain what this is about inflation. Okay, inflation is the general accent in price in which period. For example, if a good that we can illustrate as a hamburger, for example, and that costs $1. If after a year the Samuel, that is the same hamburger, starts to the cost $1 and 10 cents, that there was a rise and the inflation of 10%. Generally speaking, we have we have to realize that the more currency the central bank uses, the more inflation it will create, and therefore price will rise automatically. So central banks have to be very careful and control very well the amount of currency that we emit it, because they have can create a problem in the economy. Central banks generally have a targets or objectives set. In the case of the Eurozone, the target is around 2% annually. Another of the purpose that is attributed to the currency is the ability to postpone the purchase of a good or service, um, and be able to do so later in time. And for this money is probably transformed with savings. Savings have implemented the concept of interesting rate, because either higher the interesting rate, the more people have an incentive to save and to decrease consumption and increase savings levels. It is also the central banks that sets the interesting rate. Finally, the three purpose I attribute to the currency is the possibility of providing thanks for another currency. For example, trading for the dollar, uh, which is which is the world's leading currency. And why is the dollar the reference currency and not any other currency? Uh, this is turns ought to be a matter of trust. Uh, the United States as a stable monetary politic, which they have not building now, we've be building over time, over decades, with rigor and stability, differentiating with self for the positive of the other countries. And that is a exception why they have gained global credibility. So the dollar is the most important currency in the world, the most used in transaction, and the most universally accepted. Well, but none of these responds to the title of the video. In fact, it is very complicated to respond with rigor and the accuracy, and there is not correct answer. But there were some indicators that always used to come to the conclusion. One of one of these indicators is the Big Mac index, and its a name implies it is based on the famous McDonald's hamburger. McDonald's is a large multinational company present in several countries level, and its most famous hamburger is sold in exactly same way in several countries. That is, it has exactly same ingredients, which make this good can be comparable. In the perfect world, the Big Mac should cost exactly the same, regardless of country. But that's not so. And let's look at the next table. The Big Mac cost 20 reals and 90 cents in Brazil, and $5.71 in the US. Therefore, to cost the same, the exchange rate should be 3.66. But on the date of data collection, July 2020, the exchange rate is 3.34%. Percent no, sorry. 5.34 is official rate. Okay. With some imply and undervaluation of 31.5%. But we can say that in the rich countries, wage costs will be higher, and so it is natural that is the price of the Big Mac incorporates that costs, and this will reflect higher final price. The minimum wage and the GDP in Brazil are not the same as in the USA. Therefore, We can use as an indicator the same Big Mac index, but now measure it with adjusted GDP. That is, if there were no rich countries that others, and then the real is already overvalued at 19 against the dollar. Okay, thanks for watching. When you questions, leave a comment. For me, it's important to know your opinion, and I will respond to all your comments.